Today, the latest episode of Stories from the Outlands has dropped. We have confirmation and information behind the next legend entering the Apex games.
20. I'm down. Fuck's sake. One down in here. Yeah, please.
That was something.
Welcome to Apex Predators Explosion Network's Apex Legends podcast. It's been a while, but forget that. Let's get into talking about today's big news. Of course, I'm going to assume that everyone has watched it, Stories from the Outlands. We now know that the next legend entering the game is named Cherie Imahara, aka Valkyrie. And she is the daughter of Viper, who is actually one of the Apex Predators inside Titanfall 2. In fact, as Jack Cooper in that game, the protagonist of that game, the person you play as in Titanfall 2, which, by the way, take any chance I can to say it, if you haven't played Titanfall 2, come on. Now's the perfect chance to play it, because it seems this upcoming season, with everything I'm about to talk about, is going to be heavily tied into Titanfall 2. But more than just that, the game is also on Game Pass now. You can play it for free. EA Play, tied it in. If you got Game Pass, play Titanfall 2. Anyway, in that game, you fight against Viper in Titanfall 2. And not only do you fight against him on top of a helicarrier, and it's this badass boss fight, probably one of the harder boss fights in the game, actually, you end up absolutely, definitely killing this dude. This isn't a off-screen death. This isn't a death where someone falls and they could miraculously survive. This is the chassis, or the front of Viper's Titan actually comes apart, and you walk up to him and you just go ham. You unload a full clip, you kill him, his dead body's lying on top of the ship. You never see him without his helmet, which is, I guess, why at the start of watching the Stories from the Outlands, it's not shocking that anyone's like, oh, the guy from Titanfall 2, until you actually hear his name and you begin to tie in events. You don't actually see his face in Titanfall 2 at all. But yeah, you kill that person in Titanfall 2. So, and he was pretty badass too. He managed to rip the Titan off, your Titan's arm off with his Titan, and that kind of sucked. But anyway, in Titanfall 2, Viper is built up and shown to be a cunning pilot, a bit of a more militaristic person, I guess. Like when the way he's talking in that boss fight, you know, it's all very like air codey type pilot language, more so than just being any of the other Apex Predators where they're just talking more badass and stuff like that. So, and he's a tough son of a bitch to beat. But all of that leads into Valkyrie, Cherie, whatever you want to call it, aka codename Valkyrie. And we find out in Stories from the Outlands that this guy we thought to be this tough SOB who was part of the Apex Predators, he had a bit of a softer side, and that was definitely looking after his daughter. His daughter who, rightfully so, as we learn, was quite upset about her father's death. And we're shown that as a kid, she actually discovered and found her father's invitation to join the Apex Predators, and that she was playing around with it, and she dreamt of flying in a Titan. And at one point in the trailer of Stories from the Outlands, a big part of this 6.5-7 minute video is that she actually steals her father's Titan and ends up shooting off into the sky and getting stuck amongst a fight in the air there before her father has to come in and save her. And it seems like he was actually going to die then, but of course we know that's not his time to die. Some other little details throughout this was, it seems, and I know this, and it may only be because I rewatched the boss fight of Viper from Titanfall 2 straight after watching this, but the planet that they're on, where it seems Viper and Valkyrie and her mother, who you see briefly in this as well, they seem to all be living on the same planet where he ends up dying, like, which is Typhon. Like, so maybe they were living on Typhon. And of course, Typhon is a big part of Titanfall 2. It's a planet that actually ends up getting destroyed at the end of the game. Spoilers, I guess, but at this stage, come on. It's a planet that ends up getting destroyed at the end of the game. And then there's that other part in this video where you see Valkyrie visiting on top of a broken planet and seemingly picking up her father's helmet, which is there. And above it, you can see like a half-destroyed moon, which would all suit the Typhon story. So maybe she was living on Typhon. Maybe the fight that they saw happening in the sky was not the fight he went and died on, but it could be. I mean, like, we don't really know the exact time of events. Like, her father saves her, then they head back home, and then Blisk comes in, they head off. Who really knows? But that's definitely interesting. This Stories from the Outlands, more so than any other of the Apex Legends story videos or anything, is doing a lot heavier of a job of trying to tie the Titanfall lore and Apex Legends lore all together. Now, we've always known they take place in the same universes, but it's always been considered a multiverse. So it was always like, okay, like, is Apex Legends set in the same exact universe that Titanfall 2 was set in, or is it set in a different one? And a lot of the problems come down when you start talking about Wraith as a character and her ability to travel through different dimensions. And she really throws a spanner in the works, but maybe we'll find out a lot more this season. Time will tell, of course. So what we do know from this trailer, the standout interesting things is, of course, that Valkyrie is going to be joining the Apex games with a modified version of her father's Titan. And this is in thanks to Rampart, who people actually spotted back in the day for her character art when Rampart's in her garage. You can actually go back and look at that now and see that the Titan in the background was indeed, and a lot of people assumed or was guessing it was Vipers back in the day, but now we know it's there because Valkyrie brings it to Rampart, and I guess they have a bit of a rapport. They must be friends, presumably. They seem to be getting along well, that we see in this, and it'll be really cool if they have a back and forth, unique lines if you're playing in a squad with both Rampart and Valkyrie. That would be really, really cool. And the other thing interesting, and I don't know what this says about Apex Legends going forward, but it's definitely interesting for this at least, is that Respawn have chosen not to call it Season 9. This will be the 9th season of Apex Legends, but they're not calling it Season 9. They're simply calling it Legacy. So they haven't said if that means there will be a Season 9 and they're not considering this a Season 9, or going forward they're simply not going to call Apex Legends seasons. They're just going to call them names. I mean, every other season has a name, but they usually give it the, Season 7, that Season 8, that blah, 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 blah. Now, we will learn more information about, of course, Valkyrie going forward. She'll get another introductory trailer coming into the games. Really looking forward to that, of course. And then we're going to learn more about what exactly new things is coming in Season 9. What we do know is Olympus will be the map getting the map change. The description they've given so far about it simply says, an infestation has sprung loose, strangling the city with roots and natural growths. So going to see a lot more greenery, I guess, sprouting up amongst Olympus, which is, it's a city. It has plants and stuff around, but certainly doesn't have much natural wildlife, I guess. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. And then the new weapon we're getting, now I may pronounce this incorrectly. I think it's Boek. I don't know. No, it's B-O-C-E-K. Bow. Bosek bow. Bokek bow. It's a bow, either way, which is a standout because, of course, we don't really have, we have none. There's no non-uniform typical weaponry inside Apex Legends. Everything's a stock standard. It's a gun. It's a sniper rifle. It's a machine gun. It's a semi-automatic. It's a shotgun. So to add a bow, that's a pretty big change. The description for it says a powerful and deadly weapon for those with the skill to wield it, capable of inflicting tremendous damage at medium range. You'll need to make each shot count. Of course, the comparison I feel like most people are going to compare it to is, you're going to think about Call of Duty and how they have bows in that game, which are they're super strong, but of course they don't fire particularly fast and this sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what Respawn's doing with their version of bow. Of course, given it's a sci-fi game, they can do a lot different sort of things with it. And then I have a lot of questions about, okay, well, it's a bow. Does that mean there's a different ammo type now? Do you have to find like bow ammo, or is the bow going to be an energy weapon, or, what heavy ammo? Like what type of ammo am I picking up to use a bow? Does it use stock standard ammo, or do I have to freaking scrape wood off twigs off trees to craft arrows for my bow. Like, what are we doing here? So there's lots of information yet to learn about this season, but by God, was I such a fan of these stories from the Outland when it dropped this morning. Watched it, I was like, yes, I'm all about this. Of course, Titanfall 2, anything linking to Titanfall 2 is going to get me super excited, but in general, I just thought like this introduction of this young girl who loses her father, someone she obviously has much love for and respect for, and has inspired her to want to be a fighter pilot of some sort, or at least fly Titans, and this sort of thing. And then she gets her father taken away from her, and interestingly, she doesn't actually blame the death of her father, the death of Viper. She's not blaming it on the Frontier militia. She's not blaming it on Jack Cooper, the character you play in Titanfall 2, but she's putting all of the blame on Cuban Blisk, of course, the leader of the Apex Predators and the creator of the Apex games that we play in Apex Legends. And that's who she comes and finally is tracked down in this video, and then she chooses not to take revenge against him, instead turning away to go fight in the games. What exactly, I guess, her long-term plan is, maybe she thinks that winning the games is better revenge. Who knows? But yeah, it's good to see Blisk in this as well. We've been seeing a little bit more hints at Blisk and all this sort of stuff, but there's still so many questions about Blisk, especially, as I said before, we still don't 100% have confirmation of, is this Apex Legends universe in the same universe, exact timeline as Titanfall 2? Because is it the exact same Blisk from Titanfall 2? Because he gets away at the end of Titanfall 2. Of course, if you remember, if you've played the game, at the end of that game, I'm spoiling parts, but you should still play it because it's a fantastic first-person shooter. I'm spoiling parts. At the end of the game, you have the boss fight, blah, 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 blah. He ends up letting you live, but he hands you a card. He hands Cooper a card to come join the Apex Predators, and then he disappears. And of course, Apex Legends takes place, I don't know, like 20 years later or something like that. He's much older, of course, here than he is in Titanfall 2, and he's running these games. So there's lots of questions about what he's been doing in the time between. It would also mean that Kyrie's like, or AK Valkyrie, whatever we want to call her. Valkyrie's probably easier. Should be like, I guess like 30 something, right? No, and then she's been spending like 20 years or however long looking for him. And I'm like, surely it shouldn't have been that hard since he's writing the Apex games. I don't know. Either way, really excited. I thought this was a fantastic video. I'm looking forward to learning more about Season 9, aka Legacy, aka whatever. It's exciting. Apex Legends, Titanfall 2 content. Let's have it all. Let's tie in the universes. There's rumors of a 3v3 team deathmatch mode coming. Oh, there's lots of exciting things coming to Apex Legends. So, of course, make sure you're subscribing to either the YouTube channel or the podcast channel, whatever you want to do. Head on over to explosionnetwork.com, youtube.com/Explosion Network. Check out the podcast on all the feeds that are applicable. Head to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter to follow all of our Twitters. Head to explosionnetwork.com/Discord to join our Discord and come talk to us about Apex Legends there. Catch us streaming Apex Legends sometimes over at twitch.tv/Explosion Network. And until the next one, have a good day. Hope you get some wins, get some dungeons.